Hello， 大家下午好，下午好，欢迎各位又来到了周四下午的中环说债，我是来自华盛顿。不好意思，技术性失误，不好意思，不好意思。好，那我们今天大家看到我们整个的这个直播间里面啊，真的就是好像一个非正式会谈一样。我们看到有两位非常帅气的，来自欧洲的 gentlemen。We have Oleg and Peter here, and we have Kevin here. 我们看到还有一位一看就是也是非常绅士的这个Kevin 在这边啊。OK， 那我们现在先让我们今天的嘉宾呢简单的介绍一下自己。I think we should start from the two gentlemen first, and Oleg and Peter, would you please just introduce yourself?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Chen. Thank you, everyone, for having this great opportunity to be with you guys. Well, unfortunately, it's done through internet only, but I hope in future we'll be able to meet in person and be in one room. So, 大家好，我叫奥雷克，这是我的同事 Peter。但是我们用英语，所以不好意思。So please allow me to continue in English from here. It will be much more easier. So we're currently online from Switzerland. Hello, Hong Kong. And we are here today to give you some insights and ideas what is European market, European real estate market is, and why we're actually here today giving this, broadcasting this idea to Hong Kong and China mainland customers. Yeah, so shall I continue the introduction? Maybe you can have some kind of questions. Please, floor is yours.
Don't be rushed. Don't be rushed. 对 ，Oleg 刚刚简单的介绍一下自己啊，因为 Oleg 和 Peter 是来自目前在瑞士的一家基金的这个投资经理。然后今天呢，我们整个的主题呢，各位进直播间的朋友一定也事先了解到了，是我们第一次讨论一个关于我们完全不熟悉的市场，就是 CEE Central Eastern Europe。中东欧的这个市场，那我们今天呢也看到我们有 Kevin 在这边，Kevin 呢和 Peter 和 Oleg 什么关系呢 ？Kevin 哥来简单的介绍一下自己，谢谢。
OK， 我是他们在香港基金的业务发展经理，所以我是在香港替他们去跟投资人联系啊，还有去可能去募资啊这样子的工作的啊。然后当然我今天也会替他们做一下翻译的工作，也是我负责。谢谢。
对，所以我们今天的这个非正式会谈呢就很热闹啊，有来自Europe。来自这个中东欧 accent English， 然后还有我们 Kevin 的这个 Hong Kong accent English， 还有我的这个 Chiplish。Okay, let's all speak in English here, and we will try our best to express everything in Mandarin. 我们会尽量多的讲中文给大家。那今天的这个话题呢，其实我们确实是最近可能大家也都是我们这个常霸头条的一个热点啊。这其实本来呢 ，CEE 这个地区就是中欧和东欧地区呢。过往我相信我们大部分的朋友都不太了解，对吧？比如说现在，我觉得我现在抛一个话题在直播间里啊，你说三个，别三个，一个你最了解的中东欧的这个国家的名字，在我们这直播间里知道的，请现在就打进去。谢谢各位，我们稍后可以看一下有没有人交功课啊。这个我相信很多人都聊不出来的，可能会有一些喜欢足球的朋友可以说出来克罗地亚，对吧？
对。
Right. Yeah. So I just talk about the market we're going to discuss today, Oleg and Peter. For CE, I think most of the Chinese audience are not that familiar with, but for the issue between Russia and Ukraine recently, maybe people start to focus on this district and but mostly on political aspects. So today is our pleasure to invite you guys here to introduce the financial market on this district here. So firstly, would you please just introduce what is CEE? What kind of countries are included in CEE market?
So,
shall I? Yeah,
please go ahead.
Basically, which are European Union has been expanding in the last 20 years, and that has been happening basically in blocks. So suddenly happened in the mid-90s, then there was an inspection in 2004. We have, for example, now starting from next year, 1st of January, Croatia is joining European Monetary Union and introducing euros. Therefore, you always saw step-by-step enlargement of the European Union. And the countries where we primarily operate in the Eastern Europe and Southeastern Europe is Slovenia, Croatia, Romania, Hungary, but you know, also we also work in Southern Europe, which will be Spain and Greece. Yeah, but primarily our business is in Central and Eastern Europe for the countries which I named.
OK， Kevin 哥可以帮我们翻译一下，但在这个过程中，我想先请我们华生团队啊，我觉得在 Kevin 哥帮忙解释这个重点的时候呢，先把这个 CE 的一个地图放出来，
可以，
帮助我们的这个听众，帮助我们的朋友了解一下，好吧？
那个其实那个European Union 就是说欧洲联盟呢，其实是在大概1993年开始的，它发展到现在已经大概有27个国家参与，它是一个经济联盟。然后我们当然是一般都是知道的国家有参与，当然是那个德国啊、法国啊、意大利。当然也有一些比较，好像你刚才讲一些比较我们没有这么熟悉的国家，就是那个克罗地亚、罗马尼亚、匈牙利哪些国家也是也有参与的。然后
资源分出来的国家。
对。然后呢，它其实是刚才Peter 就是讲，它是慢慢那个国家慢慢越来越多国家参与，尤其是在那个2002年就是有了那个欧元之后，更加多那个国家慢慢参与。对，到现在已经有27个国家这样子然后 Peter 他我们主要的公司的业务就是在那个克罗地亚也有，匈牙利也有，那个罗马尼亚也有如果是中欧洲的一点点，就是那个西班牙跟那个希腊也是有我们是在那边也有做那个房地产的项目这样子。
哦，那其实现在听起来，我们整个 CEE 的市场是非常非常大的。
对。
The CEE district covers a lot part in Europe, but we seems not familiar with it before. Yeah， 不好意思，Kevin哥，请继续。
因为其实在这个欧洲联盟方面，它有那个4亿5千万的 population， 它人口有4亿5千万，然后那个 GDP 现在是大概是22兆美元这样子。所以它其实还有他们的人也是比较年轻一点，所以尤其是中东欧国家来讲，它是挺有活力的。现在来讲。
Okay, good. So let's talk about some specific countries in CEE. Which country has the highest GDP growth last year?
The biggest country, ultimately, countries are still you know, in the developing stage. That's why we have a split. You know, you have Western Europe, Germany, France, and Netherlands, and you also have Eastern Bloc, which has been integrated in terms of production into the Western Bloc. So European Union is very dependent on the countries within the Union itself. Everything is happening between the countries and not outside, so to speak. In terms of the specific countries, you have fairly countries which are closer to the Western Europe. They usually have higher GDP per capita. That would be, for example, Czech Republic, one of the strongest from Yugoslavians. Slovenia has been growing very fast. And the further you go from the west to the east, sort of the you know, the lowest real income per capita. So that's fairly easy to understand if you just look at the map itself.
Okay, thank you very much. 哇，我看到我们花生小助手已经打下来 ，Kevin 哥先给 highlight 一下 ，recap 一下。
Peter 刚才讲就是当然如果在这个中东欧来讲，算是越接近那个 西欧哪些已经发展的国家的地方，当然是它的GDP growth 或是那个经济发展会比较灵活一点。比方说那个捷克还有那个克罗地亚也是比较发展比较快一点。比方说那个克罗地亚它的那个 GDP growth 已经大概也有7到8%，在2021年来说已经算是蛮了不起的了，因为那个疫情问题。当然2022年现在我们还没有知道那个它的 growth 在2022年会怎么样。可是如果是比较接近一点那个西欧哪些国家发达一点的，就会比较快一点。对。
OK， 刚刚在这个 Kevin 哥帮忙翻译的这一串里面，我们的答案已经出来了啊。那直播间里的小伙伴们呢，现在可以回答了，请看一下我们现在的题目：去年，也就是2021年，哪个 CEE 国家的 GDP 增长最高？那选项 A 波兰 ，B 克罗地亚 ，C 匈牙利 ，D 塞尔维亚。坦白讲，如果英文讲，我都讲不准这几个国家的名字。我觉得知道答案的，刚才认真听讲的，现在请赶快在直播间回答你的答案。我会在下一个阶段的时候给大家揭晓到底哪一个是正确答案。但是其实就是半分钟前，他哥已经点出来了。OK。那我想现在我们想再多了解一点关于 CEE 这个地区，因为大家确实对它不太了解。那我想知道 CEE 地区这个 market， 这个 financial market， 这个金融市场，它呢有哪些特点呢？是我们可以最快的这个时间内可以去了解到的。Guys, would you please just give us a shortcut access to the CEE market? Just introduce some characteristics. Oh my God!
Characteristics, yeah.
of this market. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess. Would you take it from?
Sure. I mean, characteristics of this market is well, it depends how we look at it. But from the perspective of the GDP growth, that has been fairly strong in the last year. I mean, even after the COVID. Most of the countries, I think with the exception of few, have recovered in terms of growth. So again, the key point is that the Central and Eastern Europe is very well integrated with the Western Europe. And this is the key characteristics of these economies now. They used to be like separated, but in the last, 10 years or so, and, the further we go, the more is the integration, and Europe really becomes like one unity, which is getting to some kind of average in terms of everything. So this is the key development of the last 10 years in Eastern Europe. And in terms of the real estate, when we were introducing, so our business is basically related to the real estate itself. And we work a lot with the local pension funds and global pension funds who want to invest in that region. And that region, as we see, has a lot to offer from the perspective that because it's growing fairly fast, it gives, it was giving good returns in the past to the investors in the specifically real estate market. We have some charts which we can show maybe later. The dynamics in the last 5-10 years was positive there, which reflects the fundamental of the economies.
Okay, just give a break.
Okay.
先聊一下。Kevin。
对，可以其实现在那个中东欧国家来讲，它的那个 GDP growth 是非常之快的，尤其是哪些比较靠近那个西欧的国家，然后因为他们现在中东欧国家呢跟那个西欧的国家其实是融合在一起，融合的蛮好的，所以它可以慢慢跟随那个 西欧国家变成越来越成熟的经济组织，经济的区district 经济区 district。然后呢，尤其是在一些制造业还有工业方面，他们就是因为他们可以得到那个西欧那边的technology 那些科技技术，然后还有他们中东欧那些的工资是相对比较低一点，所以有很多的那个工业都已经移迁到那个中东欧国家那边，所以他们那边的经济状况就业方面还有工资的水平也是在慢慢提高。另外一方面，如果再说那个海外的投资进去来讲，一般都是投资在那个基建就是 infrastructure 了，就是基础基建，对，基建还有那个房地产方面的。然后我们也看到有一些比如中国投资人投资经济也有钱去投资在中东欧的国家，就是在基建跟那个房地产比较多一点。中国人都喜欢投资那个房地产我们都很喜欢投资房地产。中国人就是买房子，
到哪都是买房子。
对。然后也有一些pension fund 退休基金也有去投钱进去那个房地产方面的项目，可能是因为那个相对来讲那个风险是比较低，然后也可以比较像是能把握的事情这个投资，所以也有一点那个退休基金投资进去的。对。
Okay.
Guys, if you don't mind, I would like to add what just Peter said and Kevin helped to retranslate it. So it's a coin of two sides. It's not only about stable and strong GDP growth, because these days we speak a lot about GDP. We can see that some places GDP is decreasing even after a huge increase, or vice versa. In terms of European Union, why actually this region, why we are there, why it's CEE? It's all about stability. All these 27 countries, which Kevin mentioned as members of EU, they are covered by one single legislation. If we're talking about the financial markets, it's all about stability. So it's only one body as a central European bank, which is dictating, issuing common rules for the whole members. And then each country of this union, they have to follow these rules, at least not 100, but at least adopt their local rules up to the central European Union rules. And that gives a stability, not only stronger growth, but also the stability for the and safety for the investors as well on the market, as well outsiders. So this is super important to mention. It's not just about how country economically growing, but it's also about the safety.
Yeah. Understand.
Yeah. 对，刚才Oleg说有一个很重要的东西，就是现在那个中东欧，尤其是他们一些国家就是加入的那个欧洲联盟之后，其实他们都是要遵守同一套的商业条款的，所以在那个稳定性方面，还有透明度方面，还有做业务方面的安全性方面也是很有保障，还有提高了不少。所以呢有一些投资人呢现在就是很喜欢投资在那个欧洲联盟的国家里面。
好的，谢谢。
也是要安全的，做生意也是要安全一点的，稳定。
Okay, so talking about the capital market, 就说到资本市场的话，其实我们会比较想了解，关于这个中东欧地区，我们有什么样的这些金融产品可以投资，比如说股票或者是债券呢 ？So talking about the capital market, we want to know more about the specific financial products like the stock or the debt, bonds. What kind of financial products can we pursue?
Actually, not a lot, I have to say. I mean, it's I'll explain. Yeah, not a lot. And the reason for that is that from the perspective of production and everything else, Eastern Europe is very well integrated in the Western, because they produce, something is produced, let's say in Slovenia, and then ultimately this is exported to, let's say, Germany, and then Germany already sells a final product to whomever. But in terms of financial markets, Eastern Europe does not have that many products. And this is why we and other investors who work with us, we believe that it's has so much potential, simply because there are not that many ways how the capital can fly into the country. Capital markets are fairly undeveloped in relation to the Western world. The only market which is developed is government bonds. And the yields for the government bonds are obviously, because also of that reason, are extremely low. They're like close to zero effectively. And there are other investment opportunities which are present on the market, but it's very difficult to find them if you don't have a presence there, simply because of the underdevelopment of the capital market itself. So the returns for the investment can be fairly high risk-adjusted basis. However, finding a way in is a problem, and this is exactly why we're so concentrated on the Central Eastern Europe, because it gives so much ability to to earn good risk-adjusted returns if you know how, if you have the way in, and this is the key that we're giving basically to everybody with whom we work.
对，其实现在呢，在中东欧来讲，没有我们比方说香港、新加坡跟国内那个这么多的投资产品可以选择。现在一般他们现在还是在比较多那个制造业，还有那个贸易比较多。很多时候比方说在中东欧的产品，其实已经在那个英国，可能在德国已经可以销售。然后现在如果讲那个投资产品来讲，一般都是比方说退休基金，他们当地的退休基金也会投资在那个政府国家的债券。可是因为那个投资产品选择没有这么多，也很多钱都是投资在那个政府债券，所以令到那个收益率，那个债券的收益率很低，很多都是比方说只有1%，或是接近0% 这样子。可是这些都是非常安全的，可是都是比较安全。你最重要的东西是因为其实你要找一个渠道去投资那个中东欧的东西，其实是蛮困难，尤其是你没有一个合适的人去替你去管理这些资产，或是去打理这些资产是比较困难。当然，如果也是这个原因，所以一般令到当地从事房地产项目的人，其实他们的投资回报是蛮多的，一般都可以有那个 double digit 的，就双尾数的回报率。对对对，所以重点是其实是你要找到一个渠道去投资这些项目才可以，你就可以拿到一个蛮好的 return， 还有一个蛮稳定的收益率这样子。
对，其实听下来，这是一个对这个香港和中国大陆的普通的投资人来讲完全不同的一个市场。
对，完全不同。
Kevin 在香港也是多年的这个投资的老手了啊，然后这个听下来也是感觉感觉有一点陌生。那我们知道成熟的金融产品可能确实在这个地区没有那么多啊，因为刚刚讲到说可能也没有什么股票可以投，但是债券的话呢，可能选择也不多，就是国债。然后这终于给我们解密了为什么欧洲很多的这些债券的利率都这么的低，不是因为那边的钱多的，也是因为那边的钱多的没地方投，因为那边的标的就没有多少，所以是供不应求的这样的一个状态，使得一些这个债券呢可以把自己的价格交得很高啊。那当然这个当然了，也是说如果要是有一些企业去那边去发债的话，会是怎么样？那他们会有一些风险的资本可以去对接吗？比如说 VC 啊，或者是 PE 啊这样。I still have a question. What about some corporates in CEE market? Do they have the sufficient channel to issue corporate bonds, or can they attract some speculative capitals like VC or PE capitals?
Historically, it really depends to what you compare, but if we're looking at Central Eastern Europe, it primarily relies on the bank financing. The issue of bonds is fairly low. So because, as I said, the only capital market part which is developed and exists is the government bond market. And companies, they entirely rely either on some, private selected deals, but mostly they rely on the bank finance. So for international money to find a way in is fairly problematic, and usually that comes through a bank financing from the Western Europe itself.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Kevin, if you allow me, that's one of the reasons why, let's say, we operate with the help of partners in Hong Kong, because at least through you guys, we're able to explain external investors how to get into that market. You see, it's a funny situation, right? So the market is there, but it's a known market for potential investors who are willing to expand their portfolios. From the other hand, there is no such culture in Europe to work with such instruments freely. So that's one of the reasons why we actually working with the help of partners in Hong Kong. Please, I interrupt you. I really didn't mind.
That's fine. Just understand that you're trying to explain that it's not that accessible for normally retail investors to invest in CE. Thank you. It's really kind.
Yeah. 因为因为现在来讲，他们中东欧来讲，那个资本市场没有中国国内香港这么成熟，他们还是在那个发展中，所以其实他们没有太多那个企业债券可以发行这样子，然后那个需求也没有说很大。他们现在的项目一般来讲都是从那个银行贷款去发展的。也有一些企业发债券，一般都是有那个房产的项目去在后面去 backup 的这样子，可是没有说很多，就是因为没有太多产品在市场的原因，所以没有很多是哪些投机的就是短期的基金会投进去这样子，就令到这个市场好处来讲就是比较稳定一点点。然后那个如果是一些企业的债券，它可能给你那个回报率也是会比较高一点。对对对，所以这个市场其实是比较适合一些可以长期一点持有那个债券的投资人进去的。一般来讲都是那个投机期都是在3到5年这样子。对对对。
好的，那现在到这里 ，Let's just get a recap of the question before。我们现在呢来看一下刚才的这个提问啊，刚刚问到说，在过去的1年，到底在中东欧地区哪一个国家的 GDP growth 是最高的？这个 GDP 增长是最高的？那其实正确答案是克罗地亚，是 B。我们看到这个，我们在这个直播间里，我们的这个大 V 不断说，第一个就回答了 B 啊，但是好 ，Thank you，Good。但是我们今天没有礼物送，不好意思，给你一个 thumbs up，
给一个赞，给一个赞。对，
还有我们看到有发展19277，他也回答对了是 B， 但确实是还是有不少的这个网友答错了，有说 A 的，有说 C 的，所以刚才其实可能怪 Kevin 吧，没有讲得很清楚。
对，我的问题。
你把答案隐藏的太深了。
对
OK， 那现在也请我们那个花生的这个同事啊，我们刚刚已经讲了一大串关于中东欧的这个市场的一些特征了。现在请我们花生同事把我们第2个这个互动的这个问题给抛出来。我们第2个互动的问题是刚刚讲这么一大串，如果说你真的很有心的听的话，我觉得这个问题其实有点难啊，需要刚才一直都全程比较关注的，可能我们第2个互动话题才可以答得上来。我们第2个互动话题是：以下哪个不是中东欧市场的特点 ？A. 比起整体欧洲市场，中东欧市场的风险调整后收益较高，是吗？B. 资金流动性非常高。C. 外商直接投资主要流入房地产及基建板块，这个其实刚才特别聊到说有很多来自中国的资本啊，它流去了哪？我们刚刚其实有聊到这个话题。B. 国债的收益率非常低，请认真读题啊！以下哪个不是中东欧市场的特点 OK， 那在我们进行下一个话题之前呢，我建议啊，这个我们先来简单的回答一下直播间小伙伴们刚才的这个提问呢啊。那个let's just talk about some questions raised in our chatting room. 我们看到会考加油提问了，说主要从什么渠道可以了解到中东欧市场的行情呢？Where can we find the market information? What kind of channel shall we use in CEE market?
You mean the marketing information regarding this, or the information in general about the CE market?
I think it's the information in general, like equity and that, something like this. Like, can we find any quotations through any exchange?
Oh, that's what I was saying, that some of the, let's say, bond markets are like over-the-counter market, usually are being traded by big banks. So that's not always publicly available. There is a lot of statistics around it historically, but but the stock market in Central Eastern Europe is not basically, representative in a way that it's, for lack of a better word, small. And I said all the transactions usually are private deals that go with the bank financing or direct investments from the investment or from the state, like foreign direct investments in the infrastructural projects. The financial instruments themselves, I'm afraid, would be very, fairly difficult to find, a lot of information, because the market for that does not exist. There are no like mutual funds or ETFs on that are very scarce for the reasons which I explained. Forgive me the answer, but it's just what it is. With Central Eastern Europe, it's less efficient market, and therefore maybe for people who used to trade conventional stocks, everywhere, US, Europe, or Asia, that market is not, it's completely different. It's more like closed market. Therefore, not a lot of information will be available.
And adding to what Peter just said, this is, once again, most of the deals are done privately. So it's private corporate deals. But most important that, and this is actually the reason why, for example, we are working with the big 4 auditor companies. We're working with the big real estate evaluation companies in order to, basing on their opinion, we're doing our investments, and basing on their opinion, we're helping our external investors to join this or that deal every time we go into. So it's like mostly it works like that. People asking local companies in terms of our Asian investors. So usually people are looking for us, finding us through the local entities which are presented in Hong Kong. That's the case how we do it. And when we attract investors from United Kingdom or United States, we do it through making a roadshow, through the partners in United Kingdom, through the partners in United States. So we just flying, even during these COVID days, we're flying, we're meeting people, we're giving the idea who we are and how it works, showing the track record, which our track record is huge, working on that market. And with all this statistic, it helps us to get into the right contacts overseas or in Hong Kong, in Asia. That's it.
一般来讲，我翻译一下，我翻译一下。一般来讲呢，他们现在那个要找那个资料，其实都不是没有，只是比较少，因为他们的那个市场还是在发展，资本市场还有产品也是在发展。可是现在也有一些在市场上面也有一些，比方说ETF 的基金类型是可以投资的。 然后可是一般他们现在 CEE market 一般都是做那个 private placement 的私人的投资这样子啦。然后可是他们现在中东欧的产品，他们比方说一些基金都尽量在那个亚洲地区去做一些销售的推广啊，他们会找一些比较好的会计师事务所还有一些就是valuation company 评估的公司去替他们去做一些报告，希望令到亚洲地区的投资者就是比较有信心一点。我相信现在他们慢慢去做的话，其实现在在香港也有一些平台，好像你们的平台其实也有在可能可以找到一些资讯关于那个 CEE 中东欧的市场的 market 也是有的。
So is there any index like the Hang Seng Index there?
No, you can find the index of some local stock exchanges.
Okay.
For example, there is stock exchange in Croatia, but the key point is that the coverage and the volume of investment that are going through the capital market, that being an equity market, is practically non-existent. It's very small. I mean, in numbers, I wouldn't know, but it's like extremely low, like millions of dollars, not even tens or hundreds. So again, it's primarily not the capital market, but the private placements and the banks that are supplying capital for the deals.
对，就是Peter 刚才讲，就是比方说克罗地亚现在是有一个证券交易所，可是它那边那个每天的交易量是比较低，所以这个也是有一点代表现在那个中东欧市场它的那个资金流动性是比较低的，所以比较如果是投资在哪边的话是比较适合一个中长期的感觉，就是这样。
对，所以可能我们可能想找一个像这种恒生指数这种比较有代表性的这些指数来描述一下这一个市场就比较困难，毕竟它也不是说一个国家，是以很多个国家组成的一个庞大而且还一直在变化扩张的这样的一个地区，然后里面的每个国家的情况也都不一样所以确实我们可能想了解这一些市场的一些情况的话很难找到一个非常权威的渠道去获取这些信息。那么可能像 Peter and Oleg's Fund 就像这样子的Peter 和 Oleg 的他们的基金可能会给我们提供比较多的一些关于当地的这个信息。 OK， 那我们看到直播间里还有问这个习惯是我问说老师比较看好那边的哪个板块 ？Which section do you think has highest potential in that district?
Let me explain the logic first. For example, people are because of lack of investment in different projects. If you look at different statistics, there has been definite underinvestment into some of the very most lucrative projects in the real estate space, that being residential in some instances, specifically in some jurisdictions. The reason why there's often underinvestment is coming from the fact that CE is not able to access freely capital from, let's say, the world, and this liquidity that affects the stock prices and everything else. It happens like everywhere in the world, but CE is remote to that. So there are a lot of interesting projects, and not necessarily they have to be very complicated. It's just that on average, any real estate, a lot of real estate projects, when they are able to get the capital for the investment and also international money, then obviously the returns that they're giving are much higher than one would do in a developed region, simply because again there's a significant underinvestment in many places in Central Eastern Europe, starting from residential and commercial building, also ending with infrastructure projects.
Thank you. 凯文哥，快做事。
可以。他现在其实呢，都是那个一般来讲都是好像我们中国人一样的，都是房地产是比较好的投资产品，都是房地产。因为为什么呢？因为他现在没有说好像中国跟香港一样有非常多的基金去投资， 所以它的价格还是比较合理。价格合理的话，它那个回报率就会比较相对来讲是比较高一点。还有他们那个中东欧的市场呢，它现在还不是完全可以去找到那个全球的基金去投资进去，所以也是令到它那个价格还是比较便宜一点点的然后它是现在是慢慢会越来越多基金我们也看到了很多钱慢慢就是走进去了所以我们公司来讲都是要抓紧机会了，多投一些项目在里面，然后把那个基础打好。
对对对，其实我们也陆续的，就是有的时候会经常在国内的一些网站上或者是社交媒体上有看到一些朋友分享哎，我好像在欧洲的某一个东欧的某一个国家买了个房子，好漂亮，好便宜啊，然后好浪漫啊，所以其实我们好像对于这个中东欧的这个房地产投资，对于亚洲人来讲，还是一个觉得比较舒服的一个投资那其实讲到这儿呢，我也会有一个问题So here we comes the question， 那就是说，与其我去投你这个基金，你这个基金也是去投房子，为什么我不自己去真的去投一个房子？我至少还可以自己去住，对吧？Why do I need to invest in some fund who ultimately invest in some real estates instead of I invest in some house directly by myself, and at least I can live there and enjoy the life there?
Yeah, I mean, it's a reason why this exists if it's properly structured in a way that it gives investor security and protection, which obviously is the instrument that for example we do. The answer to that is very simple. First of all, diversification, because one who is not local, how would that investor know which opportunity is lucrative, and if obviously anyone is trying to buy something that is freely available, one can make a mistake, which is normal. It's a question of the expertise of the markets. Plus, if you pull assets into, let's say, a fund structure, the fund is able to allocate into a number of projects across the region and not just take something single investment in one country. It's simply, the good old logic that you don't put all the eggs in one basket. I guess is self-explanatory.
And here is the pretty simple explanation. Being a fund structure, we are able to buy big portfolios of many properties inside these portfolios, which we are able to acquire with let's say with a fair price. So it's not like when you go to the grocery shop and you buy a chicken, just one chicken, right? And you will pay for it. What is it? Okay, let it be 100块. But then when I buy 20 tons of this chicken, it will be much cheaper, right? So this is a pretty simple explanation. This is how the fund's working. You buy everything in bulk, but you develop everything in a single as a single asset, as a single project. And this is how the fund, not just bringing your safety, being a European fund, but also gives you opportunity to earn money by using this difference when you buy a portfolio of assets on the beginning, and after the performance you sell it. So that's
economies of scale in a way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. 一般来讲呢，我们现在都看到很多中国人啊，香港人也有，欧洲人也有，他们很喜欢在中东欧地方买一个房，做他们度假的房子了，这个也是蛮流行的了现在。可是呢，有几个方面，我们觉得如果在投资在一个房地产基金会比较有优势的。第一个是当然是投资任何东西也是希望可以有一个分散风险一点点，对不对？你不可能把所有的钱放在一个国家的资产。如果你投资在一个基金里面，你可以就是投资到不同国家的房地产，这个在那个分散风险里面是比较好一点。第二个也是有一个问题是，一般投资人很难可以 对中东欧国家，比如说欧盟里面也是有那个27个国家，你不可能每一个国家你都有一个很好的认识。所以你这个东西如果交给基金经理去管理，他们可能对每个地区会比较有熟悉的地方，他们可以找到一些更好的投资项目然后有一个就是另外 Oleg 刚才有讲到一个事情也是对的，因为我如果是基金来讲，他们买一个项目是可能同一个时间买很多的房子，他们会有一个打折了，中国人就喜欢打折了，所以我们买到的东西是比较便宜。我们买到的东西
占便宜，
对，便宜一点是最开心的啦，所以我们是会拿到一个比较优惠的价钱，所以当投资人也是会拿到一个比较优惠的价钱。当然他们未来比如3到5年来讲，他们回报率当然是会比自己买一个房子会比较高一点。
对，所以我现在就很想知道，其实如果在中东欧投资房地产的话，平均的收益大概是怎么样的呀 ？So what is the average property rent yield in CEE region?
To put this into perspective, so in CE that will be somewhere around 7 to 8%, depending on the country, whereas in Western Europe that yield would be around 3%. So basically, it's double of what the Western world is giving in its yields. It has been higher. Even several years ago, the yields went down from 11 or 12% down to 7 or 8 now. Obviously, this is the reason for that is very simple. There is a price appreciation. I think it's a fairly global trend in terms of asset prices for the real estate, and Central and Eastern Europe is not an exception here. So currently, it's fairly low comparing to the past, but it has still room to go, because if inflation is happening already today everywhere because of COVID and increase in energy prices, and real estate prices they will follow the trend. This is something that we have been seeing in the last months, and I think that it's fair to say that probably this trend will continue.
如果在那个住屋回报来讲呢，一般中东欧的房子可以做到7到8% 这个水平。这个其实就是相比那个英国跟德国的收租的回报率是高很多，因为他们比较成熟一点的市场，他们一般的回报率都是在3% 4% 左右。对。然后其实以前就是说几年前因为 Peter 跟 Oleg 已经在这个市场投资了大概15年左右了，所以他们之前那个租屋回报来讲更加高可能达到那个9到10%。为什么最近比较低？因为已经开始有钱去投资在这些项目里面，中东欧的房地产项目里面，所以那个价格比以前高了一点点，所以那个住屋回报率就相对来讲就是下调了一点点，可是也是会有7到8% 这样子然后刚才 Peter 也有说过呢，现在大家都知道那个原油价格的问题会令到有通胀，所以未来来讲这个房地产的价格应该也是会慢慢也是会跟着这个通胀水平去提高的。对
，OK， 好，那我们现在呢，其实可以直接来到我们第3个互动的话题了那个我请我们这个花生的同事把我们第3个互动的这个问题抛出来。第3个问题是：投资中东欧基金比投资物业有何优胜之处 ？A. 基金投资组合更灵活，可分散风险。B. 基金可以投资一个区域，而不仅是一个国家。C. 基金有专业人士为您管理，有贴身服务D. 以上皆是。我感觉这个问题也太简单了，就算是刚刚没有看我们直播的都应该可以答上来。OK， 好了，那我们其实呢，在这边呢，也可以稍微的去看一下这个我们刚刚的这个第2个互动话题就是我们第2个互动话题是说以下哪一个不是中东欧市场的特点？其实应该是选项 B， 资金流动性非常高。因为刚刚其实 Oleg 和 Peter 也给我们介绍了中东欧地区的这个资金的流动性呢，其实是比较弱的。但是我们看到也有 C 姐答对了 ，Long term 答对了 但是 Cindy23 就答错了，助人也答错了，所以其实还是有我们的这个优秀学生听懂了我们刚刚的课堂上讲的这个内容。但是我们现在其实时间有一点有限，但是我还有2个话题想和大家聊。第一个话题呢，也是我们刚刚看到直播间里面有朋友问的，就是现在到底中东欧有哪些好的标的可以让我们去投资的？其实呢，也是关于这个一些刚刚话题讲的就是 bond， 就是这个债券。So now let's go a little bit faster, and I think I have 2 topics still want to talk about. The first one is about the target. What kind of target is good in CEE region for us to invest? And you guys just mentioned about the bond, especially for the corporate bond. The corporate bond return is really attractive. So why is that, and are they sustainable? And is there any impact from the rise of the Fed rate?
Yeah, sure. Let's go one by one. Again, because the financial markets are not that integrated into the Western world, I think it's fairly immune to the rise ultimately in interest rates. What is it? If you have an interest rate increase 25-50 basis points even, for Central Eastern Europe, it has practically no influence. It's not that sensitive to increase interest themselves. We've seen that in basically the real estate rises for a number of reasons being fundamental, and this these little things, they might affect like the stock market in US and Europe, or the corporate bond market, which is very liquid. But in Central Eastern Europe, it's not. So it's fairly immune to that. And macroeconomic wise, you don't feel that effect immediately, of course. It's only the most liquid capital markets, they react to this. So this is answer to your question about the hike in the interest rate from the central banks around the world. And the second question was, sorry, I didn't get that, about the target. You said something.
Corporate bond.
Corporate bond market, right. So again, I mean, maybe to put this into the perspective, the corporate bond market itself is practically non-existing. So, for example, what happened, and this is also what we do, private placements, which are bought by the pension funds, and the interest rate of these bonds and the interest rate of the target return of the, let's say, fund, which we have, is specifically related to the projects, which are the real estate projects, and they're not affected again by the swings. These are all private placements, and the return that they give is directly related to the real estate itself, and the yield there is from the past is somewhere between 10 and 12% in euro terms. And the reason why you can get these returns is exactly what I said. There's so many things that where you can invest with opportunities, which now allow you to do that. In Western Europe, everything is way developed, and because there's more money in the system, obviously there are less opportunities for that level of return.
一般来讲 ，Peter 刚才讲呢，就是他们那个中东欧的市场也是在慢慢发展的，所以它那个基金流动性是没有这么高。然后如果说到一些企业债券来讲，一般都是就是私人去投资进去的，就是私人批一些债券、企业债券给一些私人的投资人。然后还有呢。他们很多时候那个企业债券都是跟那个项目勾在一起的，那个是比较安全，还有比较稳定，还有比较持续性是比较高一点。一般来讲，就是那个债券的收益率企业债券的收益率可能可以去到10%。其实跟我们之前你节目里面介绍过一些，对，也是蛮类似的。然后他们一般都是用，现在有一些是用 Euro 欧罗发行的债券，可以也给到那个10% 的收益率是蛮好的了。对。然后说一下那个跟美国那个 Fed rate 的情况，因为 中东欧也不是一个流动性非常高，或是受到那个美国、英国尤其是美国影响太多的，所以我们觉得那个如果 Fed rate 来讲对我们的影响，就中东欧尤其是房地产的影响，其实没有不会太大的，我们觉得。
好的，谢谢。所以其实听下来的话，中东欧市场特别适合现在的美国和亚洲的投资人啊，因为我们现在其实冲出去看，走到哪里都是绿的，就所有的股票债券都在跌。那可能我们可以去看一下另外一个市场，特别是对于一些希望有全球资产配置的这样的一个投资人来讲的话，是不是可以尝试去了解甚至做一些资产配置的一个考虑啊。但是呢，可能我们最近也知道这个俄乌的这个冲突可能也会让我们带来一些担心。就是这个事件对于中东欧市场，尤其是我们看到战争都讲的那个 bomb 都已经是在那了的时候，就是炸弹都已经在房子旁边炸开的时候，对我们的房地产市场，对于整个中东欧的这些金融市场的这个稳定，会不会有很大的冲击呢？ So let's talk about that. I think yeah, we have limited time, so might be the last question. People from Asia and the United States really need some different asset allocation. So I think CEE might be a good choice for them to consider. But recently, you know, the conflicts between Russia and Ukraine, and also we see war there, the bomb there, and some of the properties already be destroyed. And is there any impact both in the financial market and in the property market there that to bring the same volatility, same as the volatility in Asia and the United States? Will you guys introduce?
I will start, and if Peter will catch, I hope we will speak the same thing. So the story is, well, definitely everything is affected. And it doesn't matter if any conflict happening here, just at the neighboring countries, or it happening somewhere else. Anyway, in such size, it definitely affects. But from one side, it is affected. From another side, it's very good time right now to enter the market, because we are seeing that in the next 3 to 6 months, it will start recovering. It will begin recovering, because how to say, maybe it will be a little strange to say, but the money talks. People are willing to get back normal lives, and the business opportunities, it helps, it forces people to meet each other, to sit and to talk. So currently it is okay. It is affected more theoretically, like people's minds are affected. People are upset, simply talking. But that gives the floor for a very good time to enter the market for this or that project. It is what it is, and if Peter can,
I'll just very simple and short, you know, more like fundamental comment. The energy prices are increasing everywhere, right? And we know that it's related to the conflict. We see that energy prices ultimately resulted all the raw materials. So it's a general inflationary pressure everywhere, and Central Eastern Europe is not an exception. Therefore, there will be, and is happening, the appreciation of the real estate prices because of that trend. But on the other hand, Eastern Europe, as I said, is very closely and very strongly integrated into the Western economy, because the European bloc itself is self-sustainable. From that perspective, basically there is no really no effect, or the effect is minimal. About obviously the inflation, which affects all of us, you guys, and the Europe and US, simply because of the increase in prices, translates into higher real estate. So we are very positive on that side of our business in the next years to come.
Thank you.
对，其实呢，当然现在那个冲突方面，当然短期来讲当然是有影响了，比方说那个能源价格通胀方面也有影响。可是我们觉得这个也是一个比较短期方面的影响， 然后现在比方说未来3到6个月应该会有一个比较好的恢复过来。还有呢这个是一个短期的恢复过来。还有另外一个东西是因为我们的那个 COVID 也我们大家也过了2年的比较麻烦的日子了。现在大家也有一个比较好的心理状况，也希望那个经济可以恢复过来，不论是在那个中东欧，在东南亚地区也好，都是一样的。然后呢现在那个因为那个中东欧地区刚才 Peter 也讲了，就是跟那个英国、德国那些比较发达的国家也是有一个比较好的融合。他们其实现在就可以由内部经济带动那个需求，也是可以令到那个中东欧的经济慢慢也是会恢复得比较快的状况。所以现在也是可以一个很好的时间去考虑一下分散自己的那个投资去不同的国家，也可能是一个比较好的想法了，这样子。
谢谢各位。那我们也看到今天市场其实已经有些回暖了特别是这个俄乌之间呢，好像他们的剑拔弩张的这个情况稍有一点点的缓和，市场已经反应得很快，所以我们也希望这是一个趋势，而不是一个短暂的休息那在这儿我们也一起都为身处在战火中的平民百姓们祈祷，然后也希望国家的冲突、民族的冲突可以尽早的平息。 Let's all pray for that。 然后希望也非常感谢 Thank you so much for Peter and Oleg today but unfortunately we have limited time and really do wish that you guys can come again maybe not long after today。那也感谢
We wish you invite us, yeah.
Yeah, sure, of course, we definitely will do. 也谢谢 Kevin 哥今天在这边给我们当翻译这么大的一个领导，今天在这边帮我们做
没有。
对，然后我们也现在也看到直播间里面有小伙伴九龙美少女胡，还有 long term 对于发展2919277，对于刚才我们的这个互动话题都答对了，是第一，感谢你们，也谢谢大家今天跟我们
厉害，太厉害了，
谢谢大家，谢
谢大家，谢谢。那我们今天直播就先到这儿，我们下次再聊。谢谢大家，
拜拜，
再见，拜拜，
再见，拜拜。